Hello everyone, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am deeply, truly grateful that you have decided to spend this time with me today. If you are listening to this, it means you are searching. You are searching for a way to improve, a way to move forward, and a way to finally feel comfortable, confident, and at home in this language that you love. Today is going to be a very special, very long, and very immersive session. We are not just going to learn a few vocabulary words or a grammar rule today. We are going to go much deeper than that. We are going to work on the psychology of learning. We are going to change the way you think about your progress. We are going to spend a long time together today. So I want you to treat this like a long, relaxing conversation with a good friend who cares about your success. If you are walking, I invite you to walk a little slower. If you are sitting, please get comfortable. Maybe make yourself a warm cup of tea or coffee. Let us slow down the spinning world for a moment and focus entirely on you, your English, and your future. We are going to explore a topic that is the secret to all success, not just in learning English, but in almost every difficult thing in life. We are going to talk about trusting the process. We are going to talk about why progress often feels so slow, why that slowness is actually necessary, and how you can keep going when every bone in your body wants to quit. To help us understand this, I am going to share a very detailed story with you. It is a story that spans over a year, about a man named Marco, who faced the exact same struggles, the same fears, and the same barriers that you are facing right now. And, of course, this is an English learning podcast, so we will practice speaking together. I will give you phrases, sentences, and exercises to repeat, so you can build your physical muscle memory while we build your mental resilience. Let us begin by taking a deep breath together to reset our minds. Breathe in slowly through your nose, filling your lungs completely, and breathe out slowly through your mouth, letting go of any tension in your shoulders or your jaw. Let go of the stress of the day. Let go of the frustration you felt yesterday when you couldn't find the right word during a conversation. That moment is in the past. It is gone. Right now you are here, you are safe, and you are learning. I want you to imagine that learning English is like building a massive cathedral. When you walk past a construction site for a cathedral, for a very long time, you see nothing beautiful. You see a deep hole in the ground. You see mud. You see workers covered in dirt, digging in the rain. It looks messy. It looks chaotic. If you didn't know better, you might think they were just making a mess. But this is the most critical part of the construction. They are building the foundation. If they do not dig deep, if they do not pour the concrete slowly and let it dry perfectly, the heavy stone walls will collapse later. Right now, if you feel like you are working hard every day, but you cannot see the beautiful result yet, it is because you are still in the foundation stage. You are digging. It is hard work and it is dirty work, but it is absolutely necessary. You must trust that the cathedral is coming. To help you understand this deeply, I want to introduce you to our main character, a man named Marco. Marco is a 34-year-old man who lives in a busy, noisy industrial city. Marco is a good man. He is kind, he has a warm smile, and he works incredibly hard. He works in a large logistics warehouse on the edge of the city. The warehouse is a loud place. It is a cavernous building that smells of cardboard, diesel fuel from the trucks, and cold coffee. Every day, Marco arrives at 7 a.m. He puts on his yellow safety vest and his heavy steel-toed boots. He spends his days lifting heavy boxes, organizing complex shipments, and checking long inventory lists on a clipboard. He is excellent at his job. He is reliable, punctual, and he never complains. But inside, Marco feels stuck. He feels trapped. He has been working in the same position, moving the same boxes, for 5 years. He watches younger people come into the company, people with university degrees and international experience, and he sees them get promoted over him. He sees them wearing suits and sitting in the air-conditioned offices upstairs, behind the glass windows. He sees them laughing and talking on the phone in English with clients from London, New York, and Singapore. Marco knows that he understands the logistics business better than any of them. He knows where every box is. He knows how to solve problems when the trucks are late. But the language barrier is like a thick glass wall that separates him from the life he wants. He stands on one side of the glass, watching the opportunities on the other side. But he cannot find the door. One specific day in November, Marco experienced a moment that broke his heart. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday. The rain was drumming loudly against the metal roof of the warehouse. His boss, a man named Mr. Henderson, called a team meeting. Mr. Henderson was a nice man, but he was very busy and always looked a little stressed. He stood at the front of the break room and announced that there was a new position opening for a regional manager. This was the job Marco had dreamed of for years. It meant a significantly better salary. It meant he could finally buy a reliable car for his family instead of taking the bus. It meant he could save money for his daughter's future education. It meant respect. Marco's heart beat fast in his chest. He felt a surge of hope. He raised his hand high. He wanted to apply right there. Mr. Henderson looked at him with a sad, sympathetic smile and said, "Marco, I know you want this. You are a fantastic worker, perhaps the best in the warehouse. I would love to give you this job. But you know the requirements. The regional manager must travel to London once a month. You need to lead conference calls in English. You need to negotiate contracts in English. I am sorry, Marco, but until your English is fluent, I cannot consider you for this role." Marco slowly lowered his hand. He felt his face get hot with embarrassment. He felt the eyes of his co-workers on him. Some looked sorry for him. Others, like his younger colleague David, looked indifferent. He felt ashamed. He felt small. He felt like he wasn't a grown man with skills, but a child who couldn't speak. He went back to his desk and looked at the boxes. He felt like one of those boxes, stuck on a metal shelf, waiting to be moved by someone else, but unable to move himself. The rest of the day was a blur. The noise of the warehouse sounded louder than usual. The beep, beep, beep of the forklift alarms gave him a pounding headache. When he clocked out that evening, the rain was pouring down, matching his heavy mood. That night, Marco made a desperate promise. He sat at his small kitchen table after his wife, Maria, and his young daughter had gone to sleep. The house was quiet. The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall and the rain against the window. He looked at his hands, rough from work, and decided he needed to change his life. He took out a fresh notebook and a pen. He pressed the pen hard onto the paper and wrote in big, angry letters on the first page, "I will speak English." He felt a surge of aggressive motivation. He felt powerful. He thought that the problem was that he just wasn't trying hard enough. He thought that if he just punished himself with studying, he could force the English into his brain. He decided he would learn everything in 3 months. He bought 3 expensive grammar books. He downloaded 5 different language apps on his phone. He subscribed to 10 YouTube channels. He told himself he would study for 2 hours every single night, no matter how tired he was. For the first 2 weeks, Marco was a machine. He slept only 5 hours a night. He memorized lists of irregular verbs while he ate his lunch alone in the cafeteria. He listened to the news in English at double speed while he showered. He was running a sprint. But he didn't realize that learning a language is not a sprint. It is a marathon through the mountains. By the 3rd week, the adrenaline began to fade, and exhaustion set in. The grammar rules started to mix together in his tired brain. He couldn't remember if he should use the present perfect or the past simple. He would try to say a sentence to himself in the mirror, but his tongue felt heavy and clumsy. He didn't sound like the intelligent professional he was in his native language. He sounded like a toddler. He felt stupid. The frustration started to build in his chest like a heavy, hot stone. He started getting headaches. He became irritable with his wife. One evening, he tried to read a simple English storybook to his daughter. He stumbled over the pronunciation of tough and though. His daughter laughed innocently and said, "Daddy, you talk funny." She didn't mean to hurt him, but it felt like a knife in his heart. He closed the book and left the room. Later that same night, Marco came back to the kitchen table. He looked at his stack of English books, and he felt a wave of pure anger. He didn't want to open them. He felt betrayed. He had been working so hard, suffering so much, but he was still the same Marco. He still couldn't understand the movies without subtitles. He still froze when he tried to formulate a thought. In a moment of rage, he swept the books off the table with his hand. They fell to the floor with a loud, chaotic crash. He put his head in his hands, pulled at his hair, and whispered to the empty room, "It is impossible. I am too old. I am just not good at this." This moment, right here, is what we call the Valley of Despair. It is a very common place. It is easy to start something new, because the beginning is fueled by excitement and hope. But when the excitement fades and the reality of the hard work sets in, that is when most people quit. Maybe you are in the Valley of Despair right now. Maybe you feel like Marco. You are tired. You feel like you are walking on a treadmill, running fast, but staying in the same place. I am here to tell you that this feeling is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are learning. Frustration is actually a growing pain. When your muscles grow at the gym, they get sore. When your brain grows new neural connections for a new language, it feels like frustration. It feels like confusion. You must reframe this feeling. Do not run from it. Embrace it as evidence of your effort. Let us pause the story for a moment to practice speaking and to shift our mindset. I want to give you some powerful affirmations to help you through these dark moments. Words have power. If you say positive things, your brain starts to believe them. I want you to say these sentences out loud with conviction. Pretend you are speaking to the frustration in your mind. Listen to me first, and then repeat. I accept that learning is a journey, not a race. Now you say it. I accept that learning is a journey, not a race. Good. Feel the truth of that. Let's try another one. I am patient with myself and my progress. Repeat after me. I am patient with myself and my progress. Excellent. One more, a very important one. My current level is not my final destination. Say it loud. My current level is not my final destination. Let's go back to Marco. After he pushed the books onto the floor, he realized he couldn't stay in the house. The walls felt like they were closing in on him. He felt suffocated by his own failure. He put on his coat and walked out into the rain. He didn't care about getting wet. He just needed to move his body. He walked through his neighborhood, past the grocery store that was closing, past the park that was empty and dark. He walked until he found himself in a part of the city he didn't know well. The streets were narrow and made of cobblestones. The street lights reflected on the wet ground, creating pools of orange light. He saw a warm yellow glow coming from a small shop on the corner. It was the only shop still open in the whole street. He walked closer, drawn to the light. The wooden sign above the door swayed in the wind. It said, Elena's Pottery. Marco stood under the awning and looked through the large glass window. Inside, it looked like a different world. It was warm, golden, and cozy. There were wooden shelves filled with bowls, vases, and cups of all different colors, deep blue, forest green, earthy brown. In the middle of the room sat a woman. She was older, perhaps in her 60s, with silver hair tied back in a messy bun. She wore a thick canvas apron covered in gray mud and dust. She was sitting at a pottery wheel. Marco watched her, mesmerized. She was holding a lump of wet gray clay. The wheel was spinning fast. Her hands were steady. She wasn't fighting the clay. She wasn't grimacing or looking stressed. She looked peaceful. She touched the clay gently, and it obeyed her. It rose up. It widened. It became a beautiful, symmetrical shape. It looked like magic. He didn't realize he was standing there for 10 minutes, shivering in the cold, until the woman, Elena, looked up and saw him. She didn't look scared. She smiled. It was a smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. She motioned with her messy hand for him to come inside. Marco hesitated. He was wet, he looked miserable, and he didn't want to talk to anyone. But the warmth inside looked so inviting. He pushed the heavy door open. A little bell chimed above his head. The smell hit him instantly. The smell of wet earth, dust, and warm herbal tea. It was a grounding, ancient smell. Come in, Elena said. Her voice was scratchy but kind. You look like you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, young man. And you are soaking wet. Marco stepped inside and closed the door, shutting out the sound of the rain and the city. I am sorry to disturb you, Marco said, dripping water onto the wooden floor. I was just walking. I didn't mean to stare. Elena chuckled softly. Nobody walks in this rain unless they are running away from something or looking for something. Which one is it for you? Marco was surprised by her direct perception. He took a deep breath. He looked at the clay spinning on her wheel. I think I am running away from my own failure, he admitted, his voice quiet. Elena stopped the wheel with her foot pedal. She wiped her hands on a towel. Failure? That is a big word. Come, sit down. I have hot tea. They sat on two wooden stools near a small heater. Elena poured him hot tea from a kettle she had on a small stove. Marco found himself telling her everything. It all poured out of him. He told her about the promotion he lost. He told her about Mr. Henderson. He told her about the late nights, the grammar books, the headaches, and the moment he swept the books off the table. He told her about his daughter laughing at him. He told her how stupid and incapable he felt. "I try so hard," Marco said, his voice shaking a little. "I push and push, but the English doesn't come. It refuses to stick in my brain. I think I am just not built for it. My brain is broken." Elena listened quietly, holding her warm mug. She didn't interrupt. When he was finished, she stood up and picked up a raw, heavy lump of clay from a bin. She handed it to Marco. "Hold this," she said. The clay was cold, heavy, and wet. "Squeeze it," she commanded. "Use all your strength." Marco squeezed his hand tight. The clay squished out between his fingers in ugly shapes. It lost all its potential. It became a mess. "You see," Elena said softly, "you are treating your English like you just treated that clay. You are using too much force. You are trying to crush it into the shape you want, right now, instantly, through sheer willpower. But clay does not respond to force. It responds to consistency. It responds to guidance. If you squeeze it too hard, it distorts. If you try to pull it up too fast, it tears." She sat back down at her wheel and placed a fresh ball of clay in the center. "Watch me," she said. "I do not force the clay to be a bowl. I invite it to be a bowl. I apply pressure, yes, but steady, gentle pressure. And I wait. I have to wait for the clay to be ready to move." She started the wheel. Her hands moved slowly. "Every time you study, Marco, you are putting your hands on the clay. Maybe today it doesn't look like a bowl. Maybe it just looks like a lump of mud. But you are centering it. You are preparing it. If you stop coming to the wheel, the clay dries out. It becomes hard and useless. You must come to the wheel every day, even if you only touch the clay for 5 minutes. That is how you make a masterpiece." Marco looked at the spinning wheel, watching the clay transform under her gentle touch. He realized she was right. He had been trying to force his brain to memorize thousands of words in a panic. He was studying out of fear, not out of curiosity. He was studying to escape his current job, not to build a new skill. "But how do I change?" Marco asked. "I need the English now. I am wasting time." Elena looked him in the eye. "No, you want the English now. You need the English for your lifetime. If you build it fast and cheap, it will break the first time you use it. If you build it slowly, layer by layer, it will last forever. You must trust the process, Marco. You must trust that the work you do today, which seems invisible, is building the structure for tomorrow." I want us to pause here and reflect on Elena's words. If you build it slowly, it will last forever. This is true for your listening skills too. Right now, as you listen to me, your brain is doing incredible work. You might not feel it. You might think, "I am just listening. I am not doing anything." But your brain is decoding sounds, recognizing patterns, filtering noise, and strengthening neural pathways. This is the invisible work. Do not undervalue it just because you cannot see it. To help you settle into this mindset, we are going to do a listening focus exercise. I am going to say 3 sentences. They will be slightly longer and more complex than before. I want you to listen not just for the words, but for the emotion and the rhythm. I will say each sentence twice. Sentence number 1. Consistency is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. Listen again. Consistency is the bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. Now pause and repeat that in your own voice. Feel the rhythm of the word consistency. Sentence number 2. I am willing to put in the effort, even when I don't see immediate results. Listen closely. I am willing to put in the effort, even when I don't see immediate results. Repeat it. Own that statement. Sentence number 3. Every day I show up, I am getting closer to the fluent speaker I will become. Once more. Every day I show up, I am getting closer to the fluent speaker I will become. Repeat it loudly. Believe it. Marco left the pottery shop that night with a new perspective. He didn't go home and study for 3 hours. He went home, picked up his books from the floor, and placed them neatly on the shelf. He opened one book, read one page, and closed it. He went to sleep. He told himself, "Tomorrow I will do a little bit more. And the day after, a little bit more." He stopped trying to sprint. He started to walk. But the decision to change is only the first step. The real work happens in the days, weeks, and months that follow. This is the part of the story that most people do not talk about. Movies usually skip this part. They show the hero starting, and then they show a quick montage with uplifting music, and suddenly the hero is successful. But in real life, there is no music montage. There is only Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday. There is the routine, and honestly, the routine can be boring. Let us return to Marco. It is now February, 3 months after he met Elena. The winter in the city is cold and gray. Marco has kept his promise. Every morning, he wakes up 30 minutes earlier than he used to. He sits at his kitchen table with his coffee. He reads 2 pages of a simplified English book. He writes 3 sentences in a journal. He listens to a podcast on the bus. He is doing the work. But here is the problem. Marco feels like he is standing still. When he was a beginner, every day brought a new discovery. He learned colors, numbers, and basic greetings. He felt the progress. Now, at the intermediate level, the progress is invisible. He learns a new word on Monday, but by Thursday, he has forgotten it. He tries to use a complex grammar structure, but he gets confused and goes back to simple sentences. He feels like he is walking through deep mud. He is moving, but it is slow, and it is exhausting. To make matters worse, Marco had a colleague named David. David was younger, energetic, and impatient. David also wanted the promotion. David saw Marco studying one day during lunch break and laughed. "Marco, why do you study so slowly?" David asked, showing Marco his phone. "I am using this new app. It guarantees fluency in 30 days. I am memorizing 500 words a day. I will beat you to the job." David was the spring hare. He ran fast. For 2 weeks, David spoke loudly about how much he was learning. He would shout random English words across the warehouse, but by the 3rd week, David stopped talking about English. By the 4th week, David was back to playing video games on his phone during lunch. He had burned out. He tried to cheat the process, and the process defeated him. Marco watched this. He felt tempted to rush like David, to find a shortcut. But he remembered Elena's clay. He remembered that force creates cracks. So he kept his head down. He kept his pace slow and steady. This phase Marco is in is what we call the plateau. Imagine you are climbing that mountain we talked about. The bottom is steep, so you climb up fast. But then you reach a flat area. You are walking for miles, but your elevation does not change. You look around, and the scenery looks the same as it did last week. You start to wonder if you are lost. You start to wonder if you are just walking in circles. Marco felt this way. He went to the pottery studio every Friday evening to visit Elena. He was learning to make simple cylinders. For weeks, Elena made him make the same shape over and over again. Again, she would say, make the walls straighter, make the bottom even. Marco was bored. He wanted to make a teapot. He wanted to make a vase with handles. But Elena said, if you cannot make a perfect cylinder, you cannot make anything else. The cylinder is the foundation of all pottery. You must love the cylinder before you can love the vase. One Friday, Marco was feeling particularly frustrated with the repetition. He looked at Elena and said, I am tired of this. I am doing the same thing every day. My English is the same. My pottery is the same. I am not special. I am just average. Elena stopped her wheel. She looked at Marco with a serious expression. She told him that boredom is not a sign that you should stop. She said that boredom is a filter. It filters out the people who are just playing from the people who are serious. She explained that mastery is found in the boredom. The professional piano player plays scales every day. The professional athlete stretches every day. They do the boring things so well that they become automatic. She told Marco that he was currently building his automatic habits. He was training his brain to think in English without translating. This process is silent. It is slow, but it is happening. I want you to think about your own routine. Do you get bored? Do you jump from one app to another, looking for a magic trick? Stop looking. The magic is in the repetition. Let us practice this right now. We are going to practice a structure that often causes problems for intermediate learners. The difference between I used to and I am used to. This is a perfect example of a plateau struggle. Listen carefully. I used to means something you did in the past, but do not do now. I am used to means you are accustomed to something. It is normal for you. I will say a sentence about Marco's past. I want you to repeat it. Marco used to study for 3 hours. Say it. Marco used to study for 3 hours. Good. Now let's talk about his new habit. Now, he is used to studying for 30 minutes. Repeat that. Now, he is used to studying for 30 minutes. Let's try one about you. I used to worry about mistakes. Say it with confidence. I used to worry about mistakes. Now, the positive shift. Now, I am used to learning from them. Repeat. Now, I am used to learning from them. This distinction is small, but mastering it takes repetition. That is the plateau. It is refining the small details. Marco's story takes a dramatic turn in March. He felt he was ready to test his English in the real world. He didn't want to just talk to Elena or himself. He wanted to speak to a stranger. He was invited to a small farewell dinner for a colleague who was moving to Canada. There were going to be some native English speakers there. Marco was nervous, but excited. He wore his best shirt. He arrived at the restaurant, and the noise level was high. Everyone was laughing and talking over each other. Marco sat down at the table. He tried to listen. He tried to catch the words, but it was too fast. The group was using slang. They were interrupting each other. Marco couldn't find a gap to speak. He just sat there, smiling and nodding, pretending to understand. He felt isolated in a room full of people. He felt invisible. When someone finally asked him a question, "So, Marco, what's your take on this?" He froze. He didn't know what "take on this" meant. He stammered, I like it." The table went silent for a second. Then someone changed the subject. Marco felt his face burn. He felt like he had failed again. He went home, feeling defeated. But the next day, instead of quitting, he went to a fancy coffee shop near his office. He needed a victory, even a small one. He rehearsed his order in his head 100 times. "I would like a medium cappuccino and a croissant, please." He said it to himself in the elevator. He said it to himself walking down the street. He felt ready. He walked into the coffee shop. It was loud. There was music playing. The espresso machine was hissing. People were talking. The noise was overwhelming. This is something you must prepare for. Listening to a podcast in a quiet room is easy. Listening to a real person in a noisy room is level 2. Marco stepped up to the counter. The barista was a young man with a beard, moving very fast. He looked at Marco and said something, but he spoke so fast, and with the noise, Marco didn't hear, "What can I get for you?" He heard a blur of sound. Marco froze. His rehearsed sentence flew out of his head. He panicked. He just said, "Coffee." The barista sighed and asked, "For here or to go?" This is a classic phrase. For here or to go. It connects the words together. It sounds like "fer here or tego." Marco had never heard this fast connection before. He stared at the barista blankly. His face turned red. The people in the line behind him started to shift their feet. They were impatient. Marco felt the pressure crushing him. He mumbled, "Yes." The barista rolled his eyes and asked again, louder, "Do you want to drink it here, or take it away?" Marco understood the second time. "Take away," he whispered. He paid, took his cup, and walked out quickly. He didn't even buy the croissant. He stood on the sidewalk, holding the hot cup. He felt like crying. He felt that all his months of study were useless. He couldn't even order a coffee. He felt like a fraud. He wanted to throw the coffee in the trash. He went to work, but the shame stayed with him all day. It felt heavy in his stomach. That evening, he went to Elena's shop, even though it wasn't Friday. He needed to talk. He told her what happened. He told her about the dinner party silence. He told her about the barista's sigh. He told her about the people waiting in line. He said, "I am going to quit, Elena. I made a fool of myself. I am never speaking again." Elena didn't offer him tea this time. She walked to the back of the shop and brought out a pot. It was a bowl Marco had made a few weeks ago, but it was broken. There was a large crack running down the side. Elena held it up. "Look at this," she said. "Do you know when this broke?" Marco shook his head. "It broke in the kiln," she said. "The kiln is the very hot oven where pottery is fired to make it hard. The heat was too intense for it and it cracked. Does this mean the clay is bad? Does this mean the potter is bad?" Marco looked at the crack. "No," he said. "It just happens." "Exactly," Elena said. "The real world is the kiln, Marco. Studying in your room is safe. It is soft clay. But when you go out there, when you speak to people, you are putting your English in the fire. The fire is necessary. You cannot have a finished pot without the fire. And sometimes, in the fire, you will crack. You cracked today at the coffee shop. You cracked at the dinner. That is good. It means you are becoming real. A pot that never goes into the fire is just dried mud. It will dissolve if you put water in it. Your English needs the heat. It needs the pressure. You survived. You have your coffee. You are still alive. The crack is not the end. The crack is where the light enters." She took a small brush and some gold paint. She painted over the crack in the bowl. The gold line shone in the light. It looked beautiful. In Japan, Elena said, they call this kintsugi. They repair broken pottery with gold. They believe the piece is more beautiful for having been broken. Your mistake today is your gold, Marco. You will never forget the phrase, for here or to go. You will remember it forever because of the emotion you felt. That shame? It is glue. It sticks the memory in your mind. Do not run from the mistakes. Collect them. Wear them like gold. Marco touched the gold paint. He understood. The pain of the mistake was actually a powerful lesson. He realized that avoiding mistakes was avoiding learning. He needed to fail more. He needed to fail faster. If he wanted to be fluent, he needed to make 10,000 mistakes. He had only made 100. He had a long way to go. Let us practice this mindset shift. I want to equip you with phrases to handle these kiln moments. When you don't understand, or when you freeze, you need a survival kit. You need automatic phrases that come out of your mouth to save the situation. We are going to practice 3 of them. Survival phrase number 1. I am sorry. I am still learning English. Could you speak a little slower? This is a powerful sentence. It shows you are brave, not stupid. Repeat it. I am sorry. I am still learning English. Could you speak a little slower? Say it again. Imagine the barista is in front of you. I am sorry. I am still learning English. Could you speak a little slower? Survival phrase number 2. I didn't catch that. Can you say it again? This is casual and natural. I didn't catch that. It means I didn't hear it. Try it. I didn't catch that. Can you say it again? One more time. I didn't catch that. Can you say it again? Survival phrase number 3. What does that mean? Do not pretend to understand. If you don't know, ask. It is the only way to learn. Say it. What does that mean? Loud and clear. What does that mean? Marco went back to his routine, but he added something new. He realized that the reason he froze was that his mouth wasn't used to moving fast. He needed to connect his brain to his tongue. He started the narrator exercise. This is something I want you to do. Marco started talking to himself constantly when he was alone. When he was making breakfast, he would say out loud, I am taking the eggs out of the fridge. The eggs are cold. I am cracking the egg into the pan. Listen to the sound of the oil. He felt silly at first. He looked around to make sure his wife wasn't watching, but he kept doing it. He narrated his walk to the bus stop. The wind is cold today. That car is driving too fast. I need to buy milk later. Why did this help? Because language is physical. It is a sport. Your tongue is a muscle. If you only think in English, your tongue remains weak. When you speak out loud, even to yourself, you are training the muscle memory. You are finding the rhythm. Marco noticed that after 2 weeks of narrating his life, words came to him faster. He didn't have to search for them. They were right there, on the tip of his tongue. He was building the neural pathways from his brain to his mouth. Let's try a mini narrator exercise right now. Look around the room you are in. I want you to name 3 things you see, and make a full sentence about each one. Do not just say table. Say, the table is brown and sturdy. I will give you a few seconds. Go. Did you do it? Did you speak out loud? If you said, the light is bright, or the floor is clean, you are doing it. This is how you bridge the gap between knowing and doing. You must make the language live in your mouth, not just your head. As spring arrived, Marco felt a change. It wasn't that he knew more words, necessarily. It was that he was less afraid. The gold paint on his cracks was drying. He went back to the coffee shop. He saw the same barista. Marco's heart beat fast, but he remembered the bowl. He remembered that mistakes are just heat. He walked up. "Hi," he said clearly. "I would like a medium cappuccino and a croissant, please." The barista looked at him. "For here or to go?" Marco smiled. He heard it. He understood it. "For here, please," Marco said. The barista nodded and typed it in. "That will be $6. Marco paid. He sat down at a table by the window. He took a sip of his coffee. It tasted like victory. It was a small victory. It was just a cup of coffee. He didn't give a speech at the United Nations. But for Marco, it was proof. Proof that the process works. Proof that the plateau is not forever. Proof that if you keep walking, even in the fog, eventually you will find a clearing. But Marco's biggest test was still to come. The goal was never just coffee. The goal was the job. The goal was the future of his family. We are now going to see what happens when the opportunity finally knocks on Marco's door again. We are going to see if the foundation he built is strong enough to hold the weight of his dreams. Let us move the clock forward. It is now 1 full year since Marco first looked through the window of Elena's pottery shop. 1 year of early mornings. 1 year of talking to himself in the kitchen. 1 year of listening to podcasts on the bus. 1 year of broken bowls and gold paint. Marco is not perfect. I want to be very clear about this. He still confuses he and she sometimes when he speaks fast. He still has a strong accent. He still has to look up words in the dictionary. But something fundamental has shifted. He is comfortable. When he hears English, he doesn't panic. He leans in. He listens for the keywords. He understands the context. The language is no longer a monster under his bed. It is a tool in his hand, like a hammer or a screwdriver. It is useful. One bright Monday morning in November, exactly 1 year after the first rejection, Mr. Henderson called Marco into his office again. Marco walked in calmly. He noticed the details of the room, the smell of old paper, the dust dancing in the sunlight, the picture of Mr. Henderson's dog on the desk. He felt grounded. Mr. Henderson looked serious. He told Marco that the company was expanding again. The position for regional manager was open again, but this time the interview would not be with him. The interview would be with the directors from the London headquarters. They were flying in tomorrow. They wanted to speak to the candidates in English. Mr. Henderson looked at Marco and asked, "Are you ready to try again?" Marco felt a cold shiver go down his spine. This was it. This was the moment he had been working for. The old Marco would have said, "I am not ready. My grammar is bad. I need another year." But the new Marco, the Marco who had learned from the clay, took a deep breath. He centered himself. He thought about the thousands of small steps he had taken. He looked Mr. Henderson in the eye and said, "Yes, I would like to interview." He didn't say it perfectly. He didn't sound like a native speaker. But he sounded sure. That night, Marco did not cram. He did not try to memorize a dictionary. He went to Elena's shop. He didn't make pottery that night. He just sat and watched the wheel spin. He needed to remember the rhythm. Elena told him one last piece of advice. She said, "Marco, when you are in that room, do not try to impress them with big words. Do not try to be Shakespeare. Just be Marco. Speak the truth. If you break, fix it with gold. Just keep the wheel spinning." Marco went home and slept. He trusted his preparation. He trusted the process. The next morning, Marco sat in the conference room. Across the table were two men in dark suits. They looked serious. They were speaking to each other in fast, complex British English. Marco understood about 80% of what they were saying. He missed some jokes. He missed some idioms. But he understood the main points. They turned to him. The first question was simple. "Tell us about yourself." Marco started to speak. His voice shook a little at first. "My name is Marco. I have worked here for 5 years." He spoke slowly. He focused on the message, not the grammar. Then came the hard question. One of the directors asked, "Marco, we have seen that logistics costs have risen by 15% in the last quarter due to fuel surcharges. How would you propose we mitigate these expenses without compromising delivery times?" It was a long, complex sentence with difficult vocabulary like mitigate and compromising. Marco's brain froze for a second. The panic started to rise. He didn't know the word mitigate. He felt the sweat on his hands. He felt the silence in the room. But then he remembered the survival phrases we practiced. He remembered the kintsugi bowl. He didn't pretend. He didn't try to guess. He looked at the director and said, "I am sorry. I am not sure I understand the word mitigate. Do you mean how we can reduce the cost?" The director smiled. "Yes, exactly. How can we reduce the cost?" Marco breathed. He knew the answer to the business problem. He was an expert in logistics. He just needed to explain it in simple English. He started to explain his plan. "We can change the routes," he said. "We can use different trucks for the city." He was speaking. He was flowing. Suddenly, he made a mistake. He said, "The trucks is very expensive." He heard the mistake immediately. His grammar brain screamed, "R! The trucks are!" He stopped. He didn't apologize profusely. He just corrected himself calmly. "The trucks are very expensive," he said, and he continued. He painted the crack with gold. He kept going. He saw the directors nodding. They were not listening to his grammar errors. They were listening to his ideas. They were listening to his solution. They understood him. This is the most important lesson I can teach you today. Fluency is not about being perfect. Fluency is about being effective. Can you transfer the idea from your head to another person's head? If you can do that, you are fluent enough. Marco finished his answer. The interview ended. He shook their hands. He walked out of the room feeling light. He didn't know if he got the job, but he knew he had won. He had faced the fire, and he did not break. I want to practice this idea transfer with you now. This is an advanced speaking exercise. I am going to give you a complex situation, and I want you to explain it simply. Imagine you are Marco. Here is the situation. The shipment is late because there was a storm and the bridge is closed. That is the fact. Now, imagine you are telling your boss, "I want you to use the word unfortunately." Start your sentence with unfortunately. Go ahead. Speak it out loud. Did you say, "Unfortunately, the shipment is late"? Good. Now, add the reason using because. Unfortunately, the shipment is late because of the storm. Try that. Now, let's add the solution. We need to find a new route. Put it all together. Unfortunately, the shipment is late because of the storm, so we need to find a new route. This is B1/B2 level speaking. It is connecting the problem, the reason, and the solution. Let's try one more. The situation is, the price is high, but the quality is good. Use the word although. Start the sentence. Although the price is high. Finish it. Although the price is high, the quality is good. Excellent. These connecting words, although, however, therefore, because, are the cement that holds your bricks together. They make you sound fluent. 2 days later, Mr. Henderson called Marco into his office. He was smiling broadly. "They liked you, Marco," he said. "They said you were honest. They said you knew your business. They said your English was clear and easy to understand. You got the job." Marco didn't scream. He didn't jump. He just smiled. A quiet, deep smile that started in his chest. He thought about the rainy Tuesday when he almost quit. He thought about the broken bowl. He thanked Mr. Henderson. He went back to his desk, and for the first time, he didn't feel like a box on a shelf. He felt like the person moving the boxes. He called his wife, Maria. "I got it," he whispered into the phone. He heard her cry with joy on the other end. That weekend, Marco went to see Elena one last time. He brought a gift. It was wrapped in simple brown paper. Elena wiped her clay-covered hands and opened it. It was a book. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. It was the first novel Marco had read in English, from cover to cover. It took him 6 months to read. He had underlined hundreds of words. The pages were worn and soft from use, but he had finished it. Inside the cover, he had written a note. To Elena. "Thank you for teaching me that the clay needs time. Thank you for centering me." Elena touched the book gently. She looked at Marco with pride. She walked to the back of the shop and pointed to a high shelf. There, sitting in a place of honor, was the very first bowl Marco had successfully made. It wasn't perfect. The rim was a little uneven. The color was a little patchy. But it was strong. It was real. "I kept it," she said, "to remind me that progress is beautiful." She turned to Marco and said, "You are a regional manager now. You speak English, but do not think you are finished. The clay is never finished. There is always a new shape to make. There is always a thinner wall to pull. English is the same. You will learn more. You will learn idioms. You will learn poetry. But never forget the feeling of the wheel. Never forget to be humble and patient." Marco left the shop and walked out into the city. The sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. He walked to the bus stop. A tourist couple was standing there looking at a map, looking confused. They were arguing in a language Marco didn't know. Then the woman looked at Marco and asked in broken English, "Excuse me, train station?" Marco smiled. He didn't feel fear. He felt helpful. "Go straight," he said, pointing with confidence. "Then turn left. It is big and blue." The woman smiled. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome," Marco replied. He walked onto his bus, put his headphones on, and pressed play on his English podcast. The journey continued. This story of Marco is your story. Maybe you are at the beginning, standing in the rain. Maybe you are in the middle, feeling bored and stuck on the plateau. Or maybe you are facing a big challenge. Wherever you are, I want you to know that the feelings you have are normal. You are not alone. Every fluent speaker you admire was once a beginner who refused to quit. They were once a person who couldn't order coffee. They were once a person who felt stupid. The only difference between them and the person who failed is that they didn't stop the wheel. I want you to take a moment now to visualize your own future. Close your eyes if you can. Imagine it is 1 year from today. You are sitting in a chair. You look different. You look relaxed. Someone asks you a question in English. You don't freeze. You don't translate in your head. You just answer. You hear your own voice, and it sounds strong. It sounds like you. Feel that emotion. That is not a fantasy. That is a memory of the future. It is waiting for you to walk towards it. As we end this long session, I have a specific request for you. I want you to take the energy you feel right now and turn it into action. Do not just turn off this audio and forget. Do something small today. Learn 5 words. Write 1 paragraph. Speak to yourself for 2 minutes. Keep the wheel spinning. And if this story helped you, if Marco's journey resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Please subscribe to the channel so we can continue this journey together. And in the comments, I want you to make a public declaration. I want you to write, "I am trusting the process." Seeing all of you write this creates a community of support. It reminds us that we are all climbing the same mountain. Thank you for giving me your time today. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your trust. Remember, the beautiful vase was once just a lump of mud. You are shaping your future, 1 word at a time. Be patient. Be kind to yourself. And keep going. This is Alex from English in Fluency, signing off. I believe in you. See you in the next lesson.